everybody. Welcome to the Echoes, Notre Dame podcast. Mike Golic Jr. and Jessica Smetana back with you guys here as always. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review us. Check out our YouTube channel at the Echoes ND Pod on all social media because we are going to be talking our this week. Jess, Notre Dame gets their win against USC 34-24 in the 96th and potentially final meeting in the rivalry here. And I haven't felt this good in so long. I forgot we could feel this good, Jess. We went to a national championship last year, got to experience all that joy. And this actually is up there with how I felt during a lot of those big wins during the college football playoff run, given the way we walked in this. How do you feel today, friend?
I feel the same. There was so much writing on this, Mike, being the last scheduled meeting between the two schools, like college football playoff eliminator, all of the that we talked last week on this show. Like we needed this team to back it up. And just not even just our talk, like the fan bases have been talking so much crap going into this game. So this was so just cathartic as soon as the clock went zero. It was like, man, just what you said. It just feels so good to win this game. It doesn't matter. All of the other college football things aside, and Marcus Freeman spoke to this after the game, like this is a rivalry game. Put those things to the side. Like you just want to beat your rival. And I mean, there was so much writing on it and they did it and they won by 10 points. It was not even close at times. It felt like Notre Dame could have busted it open and won by even more. It felt so good. It felt so good when it ended.
And that statement is so true. And I told the story last week of, we played them in 2012 and that was one of my favorite memories. But I had that legit moment, Jess, sitting with my dad in the hotel the night before we played SC. We're number one. They're unranked. Where it's to go to the title. I was like, I get all that. I came here to beat these guys. Like, that was the only thing that mattered that day. And for Notre Dame, you're right. Like last year, this is going to be playoff eliminator mode from here on out. They've got no margin for error with the two losses early in the season. But that all got thrown by the wayside. Like, we had a chance to interview Jadarian Price on the show I do with my dad over at FanDuel Sportsnet. And he's like, and like, you heard the players, Jess, echo all of that, right? Jalen Snead talking after this game.
Yeah.
Like, these guys all admitting the obvious was so refreshing to me. Because, in this day and age, we have the robot answers about how, hey, it's just 1 week at a time, one game at a time, next opponent. They're like, no. This one means something, and we saw it spill over after the game the other night, too.
Yes, absolutely. Marcus Freeman said, like, you remember your rivalry games from Pee Wee to high school to college football, and to put a stamp on a rivalry game with your performance is something that these players had the opportunity to do on Saturday. And boy, did they, Mike, with Jeremiyah Love having one of the single best running back performances we've ever seen at Notre Dame Stadium. And also in the history of this rivalry, he finished with 228 rushing yards on 24 carries, 9.8 yards per carry, a touchdown, also had 5 catches for 37 yards. So 265 total scrimmage yards, which was the most by a player against USC since at least 1996. 6th most rushing yards in a game in Notre Dame history, most rushing yards by a Notre Dame player in Notre Dame Stadium history. 512 games have been played at Notre Dame Stadium. A legendary celebration when the clock struck zero that I initially missed. I went back and watched, and I just want to say compliments to the chef. Whoever hit play on the California Love track when that game ended, while Jeremiyah Love ran into the end zone and started doing a sexy dance on the field, I was just like, that was euphoric to me.
Between that, you're right. A moment, was that on the in-stadium PA? That wasn't like a dub after. So a moment for the in-stadium PA who pulled that off there and the Price is Right music after Jadarian Price's 100-yard touchdown return on the kickoff. Y'all were cooking with real gas on Saturday night. And Jess, you're right, though. Like, this is the kind of game they'll talk about forever from both of those players. And Jeremiyah Love obviously is going to get top billing because those rushing numbers so gaudy for a player that came into this season so renowned. And Jess, that obviously, the volume incredible. But the way it happened too, right? A player most known for the hurdle who in this game shelved that and said, I'm going to run through people all game long. A guy who we saw down on the goal line when it came to CJ Carr's rushing touchdown, throwing blocks and knocking dudes on their ass, running behind an offensive line where Joe Otting steps in for arguably our best player at center. and has a phenomenal game here. Billy Schrouth is getting full highlight packages built by the broadcast booth. I don't know the last time I saw a guard get that treatment in the middle of a game. So just the Notre Dame offense, led by Jeremiyah Love, led by that offensive line, went out and won this game. And I think this is kind of emblematic overall in a way that we thought we'd see Notre Dame win most of their games this season, right? Notre Dame this season been a phenomenal passing offense. CJ Carr's been a big story, and we'll get to his performance in this game. But Notre Dame won this game by playing stingy defense and dominating on the ground with a quarterback who looked a little bit like a rookie at times during this outing. And I think going back to how we talked about the Miami game at the beginning of the season, if Notre Dame had lost to Miami the way we won against USC, I think people would have felt a lot differently about the Irish at the start of the season. But the way the offense went and flexed and ran this game, because USC inexplicably decided, hey, we're going to play too high and make sure CJ Carr and your passing attack can't beat us, and we'll let you run to win this. And Notre Dame said, all right, and beat their asses.
Well, I do want to get into that for a second, because I think that just shows you how much respect that CJ Carr has already garnered in just 6 games as the starting quarterback, that even though he has an off night, the fact that he has proven he's a really good passer completely impacted the game plan from USC. And for whatever reason, they were not able to make adjustments. They wanted to bet that their front 7 could win against Notre Dame's 7 players, and they couldn't do it, Mike. Like they just got beat over and over from the jump. I mean, the 65-yard run in Notre Dame's first drive after USC has just gone up pretty easily, score 7 there. I mean, and from that point forward, Jeremiyah Love had 182 yards just in the first half against USC, which was more than any team had against USC all season, according to Notre Dame's official final stat sheet. So, like, Notre Dame went back to the well over and over and over on that, and USC, I don't know why they didn't try to make adjustments, but maybe they just thought, like, we can't risk, like, we know our corners are not a good matchup against Notre Dame's receivers, and we can't risk CJ Carr just unloading one on us and really burying this thing. But what did you think about that from USC's defense?
Yeah, well, to your point, it really is a feather in the cap of CJ Carr, who statistically is one of the 5-10 best quarterbacks in college football at worst. Like, you could probably argue for him higher than that. So you're right. Both teams, I thought, defensively made a very, like, we are going to do the obvious thing that we believe gives us the best chance. For Notre Dame, it was, we are going to play man coverage and put our best guy on your best guy and let anyone else beat us as the day goes along. And on the other side, USC said, hey, we're going to drop back, we're going to put the lid on this defense, and we're going to make you eat it up on the ground in a way that I just don't think they were prepared for. Because the whole story, Jess, this season, you're right, had been USC resurgent on the lines of scrimmage. Those were the talking points coming into this game, where USC's offensive line is playing much better. D'Anton Lynn in year 2 with this defense has bigger bodies. They had looked and flashed more potential early in this season. And so they made that obvious concession. Notre Dame made the plays that they needed to on defense, and USC could not on their side, outside of the wild CJ Carr interception, which was the other side of the sword from that play against Miami that so endeared us to CJ when he threw the touchdown. This was its Wario, and it didn't go so great. But besides that, Jess, like, it was, all right, we're going to go. And it was simple stuff. Like, Notre Dame ran counter and duo pretty much all game, or inside zone, and just went right down the field like it was nothing.
Yeah, and also Jadarian Price finished, aside from the kickoff touchdown return, finished with 87 yards on 13 carries. But the kickoff return, Mike, was really so important to the flow of this game, to, like, getting Notre Dame back into it, at least from, like, a momentum vibes perspective, whatever you want to call it, literally from a scoring perspective, because USC has just scored a touchdown. It's a huge play. They get 2 points. I mean, it's like bad feelings right now if you're a Notre Dame fan. And then all of a sudden, Jadarian Price does it again. And Marcus Freeman, after the game, one of the best answers to a question that I have seen from him this whole season. I want to read the quote. They asked him about the kickoff return, and he said, I don't know what the score is at the time, 21-24. We're down. They converted 2-point conversion. They have all the momentum. They're up 3 points. For JD, too, I mean, it's another version of deja vu from 2 years ago. I'm sitting there like, God, I get you, man. You know, Notre Dame, you know, there's something that this. So, I mean, that moment, I'm like, what is going on? For him to take that touchdown back, Christian, to really sometimes you go, there is a higher calling in all of this, man. I'm just proud of them. And that was a huge play for the team. He was basically trying to verbalize the fact that this play made him believe in God, Mike, is
Yes.
what my takeaway from that was. Like he like couldn't like say it, but he was like seeing the Christian Gray pick, which we saw last year, right? Like Christian Gray getting picked on all day, makes a huge play. In this game, same thing. Jadarian Price with the kickoff return. Like he is just like, I don't know what it is, but seeing that made me believe in a higher power. And that is also how I felt beating USC on Saturday night.
Yes. 100%. It did. It felt like a religious experience. I felt so bad. I was watching that game on the plane. I was flying back from Orlando after calling the UCF West Virginia. The poor man next to me had to think I was having a seizure at different points on that flight. There were a couple of those Christian Gray pass interferences where I almost flipped the laptop off my table. I'm punching air. I've had a few drinks. What of it? It was a really chaotic experience that thankfully had the best ending possible.
I will tell you, I was watching this game with my friend who is a Michigan grad, who was at the Michigan USC game last weekend, and I had watched the entire Michigan-Washington game with him earlier in the day. And my main takeaway from that was like, Notre Dame should win this game. Like Michigan was doing nothing that was impressing me against Washington. And obviously, last weekend, that was USC's big win of the season so far, beat Michigan by 3 touchdowns. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I think offensively, like Notre Dame's got way more juice than this Michigan team. Like they should really have a good chance at this. But of course, you've got like the weather delays. There might be thunderstorms. Like, how's Notre Dame going to throw the ball if it's dumping rain? Like, I was like still, but then I'm watching this game with him, and Christian Gray keeps getting called on pass interference. And like, yeah, like one of them's a little ticky tack, like should have been an offsetting penalty, but he's getting beat a lot. He gets beat on the touchdown. In a pretty major and obvious way. And the broadcast is just calling it out. Like Blackledge keeps saying like, this is what you have to do if you're USC right now, because USC cannot run the ball, Mike. They were not able to move the ball in this game. They have to just keep picking on Christian Gray if they want to win this game. And then my friend's like, man, that number 6, he's like, he stinks. He's not a good player. And I'm like sitting there with my fist clenched, and I'm like, he is a good player. He is a good player, and he's better than this, and he's going to make a play. Like, I just know it. And I'm saying this out loud, and my friend's like, okay, yeah, sure, buddy. Like, Homer Jess has arrived. This guy stinks. Sure enough, he comes up with the pick, and I turn, and I'm like, I told you so. This is the full Christian Gray experience. We have done it again in this game.
100%. Exactly. That is and honestly, the quintessential cornerback experience. Like hearing the fact that Marcus said Christian Gray came over, like basically in so many words, Christian Gray came over and talked shit to Marcus after he got that interception because Marcus leaned on him on the sideline, said he told him, no one's going to feel bad for you. You've got to go out there and play better. And the fact that he come back over there and let him have it, the shots of him on the sideline, just death stares into the oblivion, was the most cornerback stuff I have seen in so long, and shows you the dramatic change in how that position operates at Notre Dame. We'll get to more of that because we're going to have the Leonard Moore conversation coming up here soon. But Jess, you're right. The weather, all of that played a factor. Like going into this game, the backdrop there was supposed to be so much lightning. We weren't sure if this game was going to get played, delayed, how much was going to go on. You saw the weather. And so I do offer that as some of the backdrop for talking about CJ Carr in this game, because a quarterback who had majored in an offense that was putting the ball downfield more than we had seen, averaging 40 points a game this year, is top 25 in passing yards per game, all that stuff was not CJ's best day. And that started early, some early incompletions on concepts that CJ's executed all year long that just weren't there. And Jess, I do think it's fair to say this looked like a player who was a little bit nervous in this big moment for the first time that we've seen in this career, where he's been largely unflappable. What did you think?
I thought the same thing. I thought that Marcus Freeman even said it in the post game, like, you don't need to press. Like in that play, especially the interception situation, like Notre Dame, we've talked about it all season, like the red zone, when the running backs get down at like the 25 after a big run, I'm like, we're going to score. We're going to score on this drive. When like the running backs get down to the 4, I'm like, uh-oh. I said it last week. I'm like, maybe don't. Maybe take a knee at the 21-yard line, because Notre Dame, without a lot of room to operate up there, is just not been good. And CJ Carr knows that, and he knows that, if they don't get it on this play, they're going to have to kick a field goal, and he's got to score a touchdown. But you don't have to score a touchdown there, and he needs to learn that, that's an opportunity. The play was blown up. Just throw it away. Like, get rid of the ball. You're not going to make. He also went to his right and there was just no one there. Like it's just like, oh man. And it felt like it really, for the first time, like such a freshman mistake, Mike. And I just really think that he felt the pressure of like the red zone offense not being good all season and all the eyes being on him in this game. And so like that is just something he needs to learn. And missing the early throws to Raridan, that one almost got picked early, going out wide to Pauling early. Like those are plays that he routinely makes. And I don't think this had anything to do with the coverage by the USC players. I think this was just a player who was in his head a little bit, and probably needs this bye week to just like get his stuff together a little bit, because that was a big spot for him to play in. And it was definitely like, you could tell he knew it.
16 of 26, 136 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 rushing touchdown later on. Got down and dirty on the goal line with some of the stuff that we saw against Miami in week 1 of the season. 5.2 yards per attempt in this game. Jesse had come into this game third in FBS with 10.27, so almost half the production that we're used to from CJ in this passing attack. And yeah, I do think it's a good reminder that he is a freshman. And like we said, if we had gotten this exact game script against Miami, that loss probably would have been a lot more palatable than the one that we did get. But I still have a ton of faith in him going forward. I think the fact that he does care that much, realized how important this game is a reminder these guys are human. As great as CJ's been, there was probably always a game like this looming. And just the fact that Notre Dame could survive that game, the fact that he could still make the plays necessary when his arm isn't functioning in the way he's used to.
The touchdown pass he threw was a great pass. Like he wasn't like, he was bad relative to what kind of player we know he is. He wasn't bad relative to like the scope of what college football quarterbacks can be. I want to make that clear, because like he did make big plays when he had to. And I do also want to say James Rendell picking up the slack with the punt game, having a great game. Like the running backs, obviously the O-line, like this was kind of what we thought going into the season this team would look like. They would look like a team with a freshman quarterback that has running backs that can help pick up the slack, that's got an O-line that can move the ball, and that has a defense that's going to keep the score down. So your quarterback's not going to have to make too many plays. And that, by and large, has not been the script for this team. But it was good to know that coming into this game, when your quarterback does have an off night, the defense was there and they really, really stepped up. And without them having the type of night that they had, forcing turnovers, shutting down the run game, making Lincoln Riley, I think, have to second guess himself a lot, because there were some play calls where I'm like, he's really going galaxy brain with some of this. That's what you need. I mean, that's what you need if you want to win a game like this.
Notre Dame played a complete football game, maybe for the first time all season, or to at least in the biggest moment so far this season. They got complete performances from all of those areas just outside of quarterback. Jess, you called out Will Pauling. I want to say that touchdown was great. They put him in the tight end spot and ran counter with him coming up through the hole 3 times, at least, that I counted in that game. And the fact that you've got a receiver that is willing and able to try and go do that, so you can play with the math, so you can get defenses into bad looks. We saw on some big J Love runs, him blocking. Malachi Fields, who didn't have the kind of receiving production he was used to, working his ass off in the run game. All those guys deserve a ton of credit, and I want to make sure we keep shouting them out for the work they put in that phase of the game.
And also Jordan Faison, who I think like his production will be overlooked because it wasn't like a gaudy number. You know, I think he only finished with 60 yards, but got some important first downs and just still is CJ Carr's favorite weapon, I think. Like just he's there when you need him and helps your passing game even when the quarterback's not having a great night.
He's the most important yards after the catch player we have on this team. What he's able to do consistently, sneaking for first downs and pivotal moments, is amazing. We could gush about the offense all day, but Jess, you mentioned the defense, so I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's give some love to Chris Ash and a Notre Dame defense that have stepped up in recent weeks and saved their best for this most recent. Next here on the Echoes.
Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorites.
With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. And isn't that how it should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one's all you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage, or the egg and cheese biscuit with fresh cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power through the morning.
All you got to do is pick your ideal morning pair. You really can't lose because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours. Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, just the way you want it.
Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. No substitutions. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Support for the Echoes comes from Google. Being a college football fan these days means you're part analyst, part GM, part rules expert. The game's just so much more complex than it used to be.
1 minute you're trying to decode X's and O's, the next you're debating the transfer portal. This is what college football fandom is all about. In AI mode, and Google search is perfect for it. It's built to handle all those nuanced, complicated questions that go way beyond a simple stat.
You can ask it to do a deep dive on strategy, like break down how the spread offense compares to a pro-style offense based on philosophy and pace.
Or then you can pivot to more off-the-field elements and ask, what are the main reasons why there are more college football player transfers in recent years? You can even get real-time analysis, like asking, how have this year's college football rule changes impacted the season so far?
AI mode pulls all that info together for you. So whether you're wondering about a complex scheme, a new rule, or why your favorite team's roster looks so different every year, you can just ask Google.
We're back here on the Echoes podcast talking about Notre Dame's defense in that 34-24 win over USC. And you mentioned it already, Mike, but Notre Dame on defense, they did the thing that we were like, are they going to do the thing? Are they going to do that thing? And they did the thing. They put Leonard Moore on Makai Lemon for a lot of this game, and best on best in a position that he doesn't normally play, like playing the nickel corner position. We know Devontae Smith was out for this game, and Notre Dame's got Dallas Golden, who's typically playing that position, who's also playing out of position when he is playing in that position. So Notre Dame switched it up, and they were like, let's go best on best and see what Lemon can do against Moore. Well, in that matchup, Mike, 3 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards with Leonard Moore on Makai Lemon in the game. And I don't know, you tell me, was that one of the best individual cornerback performances that we've seen, I don't know, in Notre Dame history, in this rivalry ever? Like, what do you think?
Jess, I want to start by acknowledging I'm only 36 years old, so my Notre Dame history only goes back but so far. I can't remember a time where Notre Dame would even think or have the ability to, based on personnel, to do what you just described. To say, hey, you play outside corner for us, we're going to have you just go strap one guy in the slot the entire day. It's a different skill set. It requires different stuff. And it challenges the rest of the defense. I understand, a lot of the defense was still only playing man coverage, but it just kind of messes with the math. So everyone's got to adjust. And to have the personnel to do that, and to have a player in Leonard Moore who is making good on the words of the guy I said this offseason was the best cornerback I'd seen in my lifetime in Notre Dame, and Benjamin Morrison, who said, I think this guy's better than me. Last year when he saw him as a freshman. And Jess, I think he's right. Like, I think we just went from skill set wise and production wise, the best cornerback I've seen in my Notre Dame lifetime in Benjamin Morrison, to the guy who's immediately usurping him in Leonard Moore, who looks like hands down the best defensive back in college football. I know you sat next to the Thorpe people the other week when they were in town.
I wish they were here for this game.
Man, like, I don't know how hard it would be. Like, everyone came into this game knowing this was the matchup, and 3 targets, 2 catches, and 28 yards is a pretty absurd indictment of just how great this guy has been all year long, doing the thing that we lionize in cornerbacks everywhere, which is, hey, play man coverage and follow the other team's best guy. And he said, bet, and went out there and did that.
Don't worry. I bothered the Thorpe Award people enough that they are, I'm sure, I bugged the shit out of them, Mike. I did my part. Just kidding there. But I do want to say, though, like, Notre Dame doing this very gutsy, right? Like, they played single high with Tay Johnson playing as the high safety. Adon Schuler came in a lot, like, to help stop the run game, had a really, really good game defending the run. But Notre Dame played a lot of man coverage and forced USC, a team that passes the ball well, to have to pass the ball well in the rain against them in a lot of man coverage to win the game. And they did not let them run the ball. And that was what USC was able to do, again, last weekend against Michigan. They have obviously tons of injuries at running back. Their best 2 running backs are out. But their running back, King Miller, who started in this game for them, had 150 yards last week. He's very capable of having a breakout running performance. And Notre Dame said, okay, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to make you have to beat us with what we believe we're best at, which is RDBs. Like, this is Marcus Freeman's stamp on this program, right? Like, this position group playing even with a redshirt freshman back there at safety and a lot of young guys, true freshmen, Dallas Golden out there. Like, we're going to make you have to beat us this way. And there were definitely, don't get me wrong, like, USC got their chunk plays. Like, they had like especially like that first drive, Notre Dame's defense is like total disarray on third down, on 3rd and 9. USC gets a huge play. The next series, USC gets a huge play, which honestly looked like Maya Eva was trying to throw it away, but they get a huge play downfield. The touchdown, huge play downfield. The huge play downfield right before the trick play that ends up being a fumble. Like they had their big moments, Mike, but for the most part, Notre Dame said, that's how you're going to have to beat us. And we don't think you can do it enough times to keep up with our offense. And they were absolutely right with that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Both defenses, we said in the first block, made obvious choices on what they were going to allow for the game. And both sides took their lumps, but one side got burned far more than the other, and that was USC's defense. For Notre Dame, the fact that Christian Gray was able to go and get his hands on the ball again the way he did last year against USC and create the kind of play that can offset some of what we saw there. I mean, Jess, he got targeted 15 times in this game. No other defensive player for Notre Dame got targeted more than 5 times in this game. Christian Gray, according to Pro Football Focus, allowed 7 receptions for 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 pass breakup there. But got put in that position because, again, they were like, all right, we're not going to let Mekhi Lemon beat us. We're going to go by any other means. That in the run game will not get us. The USC run game, I believe, averaged 2.3 yards per carry on the night. And that was a night where, Gabe Rubio, Notre Dame's best interior defensive lineman, was out with an elbow injury in this game.
We haven't even talked about that yet. Yeah. Jason Anye had to come in back, and he started a lot the start of the season, hadn't been a huge member of the rotation for a couple weeks, comes in, has, I think, statistically like the best night from a D lineman on this team. Like he had the best PFF grade. He was really, really good, Mike, in this game. Like coming in, like this is again like the message that I feel like I'm just repeating so much Marcus Freeman Kool-Aid right now, but it's true. Like the message that Marcus Freeman gives these players is if you lose your position, your starting position, if you don't get enough playing time, if you're not getting the number of snaps you want, if someone's outplaying you, or if you get hurt, whatever, like he keeps them focused enough that when they do have to come in and play, like you said earlier with Joe Otting, like they just step in and like they make plays. Like they're not giving up on the team. Like it's really impressive to see, and it's why this team made it to the national championship game last year.
It is. And I think this is something Marcus has done really well, and this works well on the recruiting front as you develop guys. Like they're willing to put a bunch of dudes on the team. When you look at the snap counts, only the starting secondary, so Leonard Moore, Tay Johnson, Adon Schuler, and Christian Gray played every snap on defense for the team during this game. Everybody else, like south of that, Drake Bowen was the next closest, but everyone else is going to get rotated through. You can get 15, 20, 30 snaps being a guy in the depth on this roster and get opportunities to impact a game when you've got that. Jared Dawson played his ass off again. Jalen Sneed had himself a great day in this. I also want to shout out, Jess, while we're talking about the secondary, because again, you're right. Big plays were going to be built into the model. And having a school that now appears to be defensive back like heavy in the way that Marcus was at Cincinnati, where that's a position that you can count on to strain and have that DB mentality to break through. One time for Dallas Golden. Like Dallas Golden was a guy we weren't sure coming into this game was going to be able to stomach what they threw at him, would be targeted a bunch. Targeted 5 times, allowed 3 receptions for 22 yards in this game, and had the highest coverage grade on the team behind Drake Bowen. Like that dude, and that's not even just like box score watching, right? We all saw in this game.
Yeah.
Did a good job of not drawing pass interference penalties, stayed in phase with these guys, got his hands on some footballs, played through the catch point against players. Like all of those reps of these guys having some young player growing moments paid off in the biggest game of the season in a way that the staff's got to be really, really proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to, I want to mention like Boubacar Traore for a second. 6 total pressures. Like he had a really great game. You already mentioned Dallas Golden. Lincoln Riley, I think kind of Notre Dame was able to impact what they wanted to do with the run game, right? And I think Lincoln Riley was just having a tough time, like trying to figure out how to overcome that, because there were so many times in this game where, and like last week I said, he's an offensive genius, Lincoln Riley. And for someone who I called a genius last week, I want to just like redact that. Like, I mean, the trick play, Mike, is that disqualifies you from being a genius. It was such a poor decision after USC just got this huge chunk play to have your best player try to go back and pass it. Mekhi Lemon.
For the second time that game. For the second time that game, Jess, they tried to have him throw a pass.
In the rain, gets hit by a Don Schuler, who had a freaking great game, fumbles it, flips, like, now Notre Dame's got the ball, right? The play where they put in their backup quarterback to run the ball, which Notre Dame immediately clocked. They were like, that's going to be a run play. Shut it down. Didn't convert it. There was the 4th and inches call, which, like, Notre Dame did that last week. So I get it. I get sometimes your offensive coordinators like, it seems like we should just sneak it, but we don't want to sneak it. Let's drop back and pass it. Didn't work. I mean, there was a lot in this game where Lincoln Riley just, like, I think Notre Dame had him second guessing everything, and he was trying to do anything he could to try to make a big play. And every single time the defense was there and saw through it and stepped up.
Well, I think that this conversation is very similar to the conversation we had last week about Notre Dame in short yardage, where if you cannot get consistent push and do it the easy way, you start searching and have to do it the hard way. And for Lincoln Riley and USC in this game, we read you the numbers: over 300 yards allowed defensively versus the run on that side, and then under 3 yards per carry offensively on your side. When you can't count on, hey, we can just hand the ball off, go forward, and get a yard, like, I always said in football, like, the 4th down aggressiveness stuff to me is a silly conversation. 1 yard should be your birthright if you're a good football team. You should be able to get 1 yard anywhere on the field, or else you don't deserve to win the football game, is my Neanderthal view on a very high-level analytics conversation. And that 4th and 1 in particular, Notre Dame's defense and the way they stuffed the run all night made Lincoln Riley and that offense have to second-guess how they could go about getting a yard. And then credit to on the other side, Chris Ash has had this defense ready. Like you mentioned, clocking the backup quarterback being in there. I think the stuff they do on the perimeter versus designed rollouts versus some of the throwback stuff, we've seen them cover down screens for sacks in recent weeks. Like, from the neck up, this defense is as prepared as any you've seen in college football over a recent number of weeks, where they've taken quarterbacks like Jaden Mayava, who have played phenomenal football, and Notre Dame's gone through a wake of them recently where maybe the team's not great, but the quarterbacks have played really well against almost everyone else. And then they come in and play against Notre Dame and against a defense that, like we asked last week, would you continue to do the things you have been successful with in recent weeks? Notre Dame said, yeah, we're going to give our guys a chance to play man coverage. We're going to throw more bodies at the quarterback and in the run game than they can block. And it worked again. And it did make Lincoln Riley and that staff, I think, second guess themselves a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And post-game win expectancy, which, like, takes into account, like, all of the advanced stats and, like, puts it into a formula. And it's like, this is how many times you would win that game, basically. 99% for Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame dominated in this game. 10-point game ultimately. And shout out to Vegas, because, like, the line was at like 9.5. And last week we were like, oh, that seems pretty high. Ended up being a 10-point win for Notre Dame. But this is a game where, like, even despite all of the Notre Dame mistakes, like, Notre Dame was just the better team. And, like, the other number I wanted to mention from, like, the advanced stats was how brutally Notre Dame shut down the run game. This was a 2nd percentile EPA per rush performance from USC. Notre Dame's the flip side of that, 97th percentile. If you remember from, like, your, advanced ACTs, SATs, like, you want to be like 99 percentile. That's, like, best. You're like, okay, cool. That was the difference in the game too. It's like Notre Dame was just able to play the identity that they wanted to coming into this game, right? Like, play to their strengths, and they were able to do that. Even, like, the decision to go into half while Lincoln Riley was on offense, Notre Dame let them have the ball back with around a little under a minute left. I think 2 timeouts though. They get a first down. Notre Dame sacks Mayava. There's 17 seconds left, but they have 2 timeouts. They're, I think, around, like, the 40. They're 40. They just go into halftime, Mike. They're like, we're not going to be able to do anything here. I thought they were going to try to set up a field goal, maybe, like, just do a couple quick, like, I don't know what you thought about that, but that was when I was like, he knows they just got to shut it down, go into the half, because they're not getting anything here.
Jess, they popped the stats on TV. Jaden Mayava going into the half is one of the best quarterbacks in the sport. I mean, in a lot of stats he is, but that was one area they showed that I thought was a really good job by the broadcast crew in having that ready. They have performed well in that situation, and you're right, Notre Dame completely took the wind out of their sails there. You mentioned, like, the how they did all of this, Jess. That to me is the most deeply satisfying part of all of this.
Yeah.
Is winning was always going to be good. Winning by reminding your rival that you are tougher than them in the areas they thought they had improved is one of the most deeply satisfying things of all time. Like to go out and have this game be won the way it was won, and especially knowing like we're going to talk about what the history of this rivalry looks like, all the sound bites that we heard leading up to and after this game about what the plans are to continue this. Like if this is the last one we get for a little while here, to remind them on the way out, hey, you thought you were better up front on both sides of the ball, and then you saw what that really looked like. It's got to feel nice. It's got to feel nice for Marcus Freeman and that staff who pride themselves on being an O-line, D-line program, like he always says.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, just to be clear, like that's why USC doesn't want to keep playing this game, because like they're admitting we think this game is too hard to play during our season. Like our Big Ten season is tough. We have to travel. We play all these tough teams now, and we can't. If Notre Dame was a cakewalk every year, like it was when we were growing up, Mike, they would say, "Sure, let's play it every year." Like that's an easy win for us. That's not the case. That's why they're trying to now, in their words, at least what they're claiming is move it into September, make it like a week 1 or a week 0 game, because then they could say, "Oh, we lost in week 1 or week 0, but like we'll win out in our conference play. Well, winning early or losing early is not the end of the world in the 12-team playoff era." And I don't know what your thoughts are about like a week 1 or week 0 USC game. I think that is like actually like why would you do that? Like playing a rivalry game in week 1 or week 0, just kind of like, ugh, I don't think so. I don't know what Notre Dame gets out of that. I think like USC will say like Notre Dame needs this scheduling arrangement because like who else are they going to play against? Their schedule's so easy. But like beating USC hasn't really helped Notre Dame get to the playoff the last few years. It's helped in that like they got another number in the win column, right? But like it hasn't boosted their resume any of the years that they've made it to the playoffs. So I just think like if you're Notre Dame, I don't know why you would concede that when this game's always been played in October and November. It is a historic rivalry in the sport. USC is trying to like allegedly sell it to Netflix now. Just like why would you give that up?
Yeah, I do love, again, the people that try, and again, everyone always feels some way about Notre Dame, but people trying to continue to make Notre Dame the bad guy in this for not joining a conference when we're the ones doing what we've always done.
Right.
And Jess just told you all the different things that they're trying to do about this. I'm with you, Jess. Like, part of me is like, and this is like the fan part of me, not the analyst part of me, that's like, hey, as a fan and former player, why are we going to do it on their terms? For who, for what? You just mentioned, like, how much are we really getting out of this? Someone else will always be willing to play Notre Dame. It's not like they're going to have a tough time filling out the dance card. And I don't know, like, to remove the stakes from the rivalry to me is the silliest part.
Yes, exactly.
Like, that was part of why what everyone got to watch on Saturday night was so great, because they knew, especially for Notre Dame, like probably more so for us than for USC in that game. Yeah. If we lose that game, it's over this season. The playoff talk is done, and you really get to find out some things about your football team then. And you want to take that away from this? You want to that to me is just like anti-competitive to the point of absurdity in a way that I can't endorse. And so I hope it does. I would never sign up for this at a neutral site. If you do that, that is abhorrent.
I think that's
if that's
terrible.
Not a home, that is disgusting, and I would never sign up for that, not in a million years.
Yeah, the report from John Orand a couple weeks ago was that USC wanted to make this a like deal with Netflix where they're going to quote unquote eventize college football and like make it a whole thing, which like okay, and maybe playing it in Vegas or Mexico City would circumvent some of the Big Ten media rights deals that the USC's already agreed to. And apparently the networks were not happy about this. They were like, absolutely not. We want those games on our network, not on Netflix. So I don't think that is going to happen. But I do think that it's an example of why this USC is not approaching this the way that I think you would want to see them approach it if you're a fan of the actual rivalry. They're approaching it from the perspective of like, let's make this a big Netflix event and sell it and get more money from it. And I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. Like the reason that this rivalry works is because it's old. 96 total times it's been played, only hasn't been played in COVID and World War II. And because the stakes are so high every time these teams play against each other, because both of these teams have had countless Heisman Trophy winners. Some of the best players in the history of the sport have played in this rivalry. And it just kind of takes that away if you're going to play it week 0 or week 1. And also Notre Dame's scheduled out a lot of their week 1s for the next few years. Like next year, they already have a 2026 week 1 game. It's at Lambeau Field against Wisconsin. So I just don't like any of it. I think that is pretty lame that they're trying to change it. And the only reason they're trying to change it too is because of what they did, because they joined the Big Ten. Like Notre Dame hasn't changed anything. Notre Dame is like famous for not changing things, right? Like
yeah,
it is a feature and a bug sometimes that Notre Dame doesn't want to change stuff. And if this were Notre Dame doing it, I guarantee you I would be just as critical of them if they were trying to screw with this rivalry. But it seems like Notre Dame's like, yeah, we just want to keep playing it the way it's been played. And USC's like, well, we want to move it to September because then if we lose, it doesn't make us look as bad, which that's really annoying. And you guys, you guys chose to join the Big Ten to get the money. Like, you knew you're going to have to travel.
Yeah, if I gave them the most favorable read, it's I learned it by watching you. Like the MO for Big Ten out of conference scheduling in recent years for teams that have won at a high level has been, we're not going to schedule anyone hard. Like it worked for Michigan. It worked for Ohio State last year. Like that was just kind of how we've seen teams do business and that. And so you could say, hey, they're just falling in line. We know a lot of the Big Ten schools have done a good job of going along with what's come down from the conference office in terms of how they move forward, what they're pushing for in terms of the playoff expansion and stuff. But like, I don't know, like I got so tired of that line, and I think it was Colin who brought it up, like USC doesn't need this game. Like Notre Dame doesn't need it either. It's not about needing it. We should want this in a day and age where college football continues to shift farther and farther away from the things that have made it enjoyable here. We should want things like this that are that have history, that have weight to them, that are load-bearing in the sport in a way that year after year, if we keep losing, I don't know if that's a good thing for us long-term.
Yeah, absolutely. Discussing it as like, who needs it? It's like, well, do we really need anything? Like, this is not how I would discuss something that like has been a part of my life for 30 years as a fan of this team. But yeah, I thought that was, he also compared USC to Donald Trump and Notre Dame to NATO. So there was a lot going on in that clip that I saw of Colin Cowherd talking about this rivalry, Mike. But yes, I just think like the whole thing is really silly. I had hope going into the season, like there's going to be an announcement by the time they play the game. They're going to get some sort of deal done, at least for the next like 2 years to extend it and keep playing the October-November schedule. But the weekend came and went, no announcement, just some vague like updates from reporters like, hey, both teams are working on a deal. And it's like, well, I think if they really wanted a deal, like they would have done it and timed it to come out this past weekend. So this is telling me now that I think both sides are adamantly not willing to compromise on it, which is obviously a huge shame. So
it is. When I saw Pete Bavacqua going on Dan Patrick the Friday before, I thought, oh, surely this is where the announcement is going to come that we're going through this. And when that came and went, I'm with you. I started to think this could be an interesting time here.
Also, if you do want to make the argument about like who needs who, let's say USC like wins out the rest of their Big Ten games, right? Like they beat Oregon, they beat UCLA, they beat Iowa. The fact that they lost to a good Notre Dame team does help them. Like we're not in the 14 playoff era anymore. And I feel like a lot of these takes about like these teams needing each other is like very not understanding like the current college football playoff. Like a USC team with a ranked loss to Illinois and to Notre Dame with one Big Ten loss is going to make the playoff. They could still make the playoff. I just like, it's kind of bizarre to me. Like both teams, if they're good and they play each other, the team that loses will still get credit for it because that's how this 12-team playoff stuff works now.
Well, especially after they retooled the system this offseason because of all the SEC conversation about you should be rewarded for playing tough games, which was for them trying to capitalize on what they believe they get in conference.
Right.
So I'm with you. There is a whole lot of people that have missed the point on that nationally in a way that makes this maddening. So we'll wait and see. We'll see if we get good news on that front. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll answer some of your questions that you were kind enough to fire at us all the way, fire our way on Twitter next here on the Echoes. All right, welcome back to the Echoes at the Echoes ND Pod. is where some of you are always kind enough to send us questions when we ask. And we haven't done a great job of always answering them, but today that changes. So, Jess, I know we have a couple in the hopper here. Do you have any questions that you liked from the Twitter crop that we got for this week?
I do have a couple questions I like. So the first question is about Notre Dame's bye week, Mike. Notre Dame's got a bye coming up before they play Boston College. JJ asked us what's our favorite bye week activity on a Saturday to fill the time when Notre Dame's not playing.
Ooh, do you have one that comes to mind here? Like, again, like this is outside of the obvious watching other college football games. In my case, going to call a game that takes up a lot of the time here. So is there any that comes to mind for you, especially during the fall?
So normally in the fall, I will plan like a New York college football bar crawl type situation where I don't have to like be home by a certain time to watch the Notre Dame game, because I will not watch a Notre Dame game in public ever. That's insane. But this upcoming weekend, Mike, my cousin's getting married, and when I heard she was having a fall wedding this year, I was like, fall wedding during football season, that doesn't sound good. But then I saw the date and I said, oh, perfect, that's already a second bye week. So I will be in Pittsburgh, indulging in a Pittsburgh wedding cookie table this weekend while I'm sure I'll be checking in on scores on my phone throughout the night, but I will be blissfully, like, if Notre Dame had lost this game and I had to go to this wedding with all my Pitt grad family, I would have been sad. But now I get to dance, have a few drinks, I'll eat cookies from the cookie table. I'm going to have a great time.
Jess, just because I wasn't aware of this until earlier this year when it became made known to me by someone on Twitter, can you explain to people who don't know what the Pittsburgh cookie table is as a wedding?
Yeah, so it's just a table full of cookies at a wedding. And this is like a thing in Pittsburgh. And I saw my cousins earlier this summer and I was like, hey guys, like, how's the planning for the cookie table going for the wedding? And my family's Italian, by the way. I'm like almost 100% Italian, even though I don't have an Italian sounding name. But my cousins basically were like, your aunt is running this cookie table like it's the Navy. Like she's got spreadsheets. Like they started baking cookies in like July and freezing them. Like this is just like a whole thing for these weddings. And I'll post some pictures of the cookie table to my social media. I'll definitely send you some cookie table pics, Mike. But yes, it's like an Italian Pittsburgh tradition, I guess.
It does. It just sounds like an excuse for moms and grandmas to flex hard in the kitchen with their cookies. And it ends with everyone, instead of having like a few slices of cake, you have this room with an impossible amount of cookies at a wedding, which is the most deeply Golic thing I've heard. It's why Pittsburgh to me is spiritually Midwest and is just magical. So
yes, it's very special. It's very special. It's very exciting. I can't wait.
That's awesome. I can't really think of a good bye week activity. I will say, just as like in football season, there are so few days where you get to go and do anything else. Right. And I went and saw Les Mis the other night for the first time. Sweet Christ.
You saw Les Mis for the first time?
For the first time. I had never seen it before. I had listened to some of the songs on it. And can I just say, my girl Eponine, On My Own, is one of the most uniquely devastating songs I have ever heard.
Wait, how about A Little Fall of Rain? Can Hardly Hurt Me Now? The Notre Dame football story from this last Saturday.
Wow.
Think about it.
Wow.
We are all spiritually Eponine, except we didn't tragically die at the end. Spoilers. Just kidding. If you don't know what happens in Les Mis, everyone dies, okay?
Everyone.
Like, it's just really sad.
The whole second act is just folks just getting absolutely murked. So
I'm so jealous that you got to see it for the first time. I saw it for the first time when I was like 8 years old, and I've seen it multiple times since. And I know every single word of that musical. So I wish I could go back in time and see it again for the first time.
That is the kind of beautiful, illustrious bye-week activity that you could partake in this Saturday if it's playing in your area and someone's doing a great job performing it. Jess, let's get one more in quick here. What's the last question you want to hit?
This is kind of I don't know. This might put us some like bad juju on the podcast, but it says, what are the chances, from Aaron, what are the chances we have a 1993 repeat? We just won a huge game against rival USC, and our next one is against Boston College that we should beat handily, but 1993 did happen. Asking for a scared alum who was there in 93 and might be me, parentheses. I didn't think about this. I did not think about this. What do you think about this being a repeat of 1993? And let's broaden it to, what do you think of the chances Notre Dame still can lose a really stupid game this year?
I feel better about that than I have because Notre Dame's already in recent weeks kind of shown their ability to take care of opponents that on paper they should beat. I think Notre Dame has a very good chance to run the table from here on out. I would absolutely be comfortable predicting that right now because they seem to have taken and learned so much from prior years where they did lose games that on paper they were heavy favorites. And so I think now, especially after last year, this team understands the opportunity in front of them. They understand the mode they've got to be in right now. It's not foreign to so many of the core parts of that roster that have stepped up for leaders. So I'm saying all that to cope with this that I also didn't think about and now scares the hell out of me.
Yes. I was not alive yet in 1993. Humble brag, just kidding. But Notre Dame has played in so many games like that, I think, in my especially like teen and college years where it's like, oh man, like we finally got all things humming, all firing on one. I mean, 2024 is a great example. Like beat Texas A&M on the road, let's freaking go, and then you lose your next game to a team that you should have beaten handily. But I think like this is just entirely a mentality thing going forward. Notre Dame's going to be favored in all of these games, and if you trust that Marcus Freeman can make sure that they play that way and they're not just kind of like sleepwalking through it because they expect to win them all, then like I don't see them losing to any of these teams, except with the exception of like Pitt's playing a lot better now, better quarterback. Yeah. That's definitely on my radar. I haven't gotten to watch a ton of Pitt this year. At the same time, like their big win was against Florida State, which doesn't look that big anymore because they lost to Stanford in one of the stupidest ways possible. Notre Dame also has to play Stanford, so there's
Navy,
there's countless things that can go wrong in a college football season. But I think like if the bones of this team are intact health wise, which is always a concern coming into November, and the team is focused, I think they're so talented they have to win these games. But that's really the test for Marcus Freeman is like you can't just expect to win now for the rest of the season because you got over the USC hump.
Yep, I think good time for the bye so you don't have a chance for a letdown. This coaching staff can really lean into that, and hopefully the maturity of this team in so many key areas takes over. Thank you to everybody for the questions. We hope you all enjoyed celebrating this win. Enjoy the bye this weekend. Go eat a cookie. Go see a play. Go with God. Jess, this was fantastic. Thank you to everybody. Go Irish.